Tom Baker walked down the busy London street with his head down and his hands deep in his pockets. He was having a very bad day. Last night, his boss had fired him from his job at the car shop. This morning, his girlfriend Lisa had left him. She took her things and said she couldn't live with such an angry man anymore. Tom kicked an empty can on the sidewalk and watched it bounce into the road. He was always angry these days. Life wasn't fair. Other people had nice jobs and happy homes. Tom had nothing. Rain started to fall, light at first, then heavier. People around Tom opened umbrellas or ran for cover. Tom didn't care if he got wet. The rain matched his dark mood. As he turned a corner, he saw a small coffee shop with bright lights. Outside the shop, 2 dogs played in a small area. They were bulldogs, strong, squat dogs with wrinkled faces. One was tan with a white chest, and one was gray. They looked happy, running around and playing with a red ball. Tom stopped and watched them. The dogs had nice collars with shiny tags. They looked well-fed and clean. Someone rich owned these dogs. Someone who had everything Tom didn't have. The gray bulldog ran up to the edge of the area where Tom stood. It looked up at him with big, friendly eyes. The dog dropped its ball near Tom's feet, as if asking him to play. Something dark twisted inside Tom's chest. Why should these dogs be so happy when he was so miserable? Without thinking, he pulled back his foot and kicked the gray dog hard in its side. The dog let out a sharp cry of pain and stumbled backward. The other bulldog rushed over, standing in front of its friend and growling at Tom. People at nearby tables turned to look. "What's your problem, stupid dog?" Tom said with a mean smile. He raised his foot again, ready to kick the tan bulldog too. Behind him, the door of the coffee shop opened. Tom didn't notice at first. He was too focused on the dogs. But then he felt the strange quiet around him. People were staring, not just at him, but at someone behind him. "Those are my dogs," said a deep, calm voice with a rough London accent. Tom turned around slowly. His heart nearly stopped. Standing there was a man Tom knew from movies, a man known for playing tough guys who could break bones with their bare hands, a man who did many of his own dangerous stunts, a famous action movie star with a bald head, strong jaw, and very, very angry eyes. Jason Statham. The movie star was not tall, but he looked powerful. His arms, shown by his tight black t-shirt, were covered in muscles. His eyes, blue and cold, locked onto Tom like a hunter watching prey. "The gray one you just kicked is Frank," Statham said, his voice quiet but filled with anger. "The tan one is Rosie. They're my family." Tom's mouth went dry. His legs felt weak. Around them, people had pulled out phones and were recording everything. I didn't know," Tom managed to say. "You didn't know they were mine?" Statham asked, stepping closer. "So it would be okay to hurt them if they belonged to someone else? Someone not famous?" Tom had no answer. The truth made him feel small and mean. He had hurt an innocent animal just because he was angry at the world. Statham knelt down and gently checked Frank for injuries. The dog whimpered but licked Statham's hand. Rosie stayed close, still watching Tom with suspicious eyes. "Someone called the police," Statham said, not looking away from his dogs. "This man just committed animal abuse in front of 20 witnesses." A woman at a nearby table nodded. "Already did," she said, holding up her phone. "They're on their way." Tom looked around desperately. People were glaring at him. Some were shouting angry words. There was nowhere to run. He had made a terrible mistake. And now, the whole world was watching. The police arrived in less than 5 minutes. 2 officers walked up to the crowd that had formed around Tom, Jason Statham, and the dogs. People moved aside to let them through, many still holding phones to record everything. "What's going on here?" asked the first officer, a tall woman with short black hair. Before Tom could speak, 3 people from nearby tables started talking at once. They all said the same thing. This man had kicked a dog for no reason. "It's true," Statham said, standing up with Frank in his arms. The gray bulldog still looked shaken. This man kicked my dog hard in the ribs. The dog did nothing to him. I saw it happen through the window. The female officer turned to Tom. Is this true, sir? Tom looked at his feet. He wanted to lie, to say it was all a mistake. But at least 20 people had seen him do it. Many had videos. Yes, he said in a low voice. I kicked the dog. Why? Asked the second officer, a younger man who was writing in a small notebook. Tom had no good answer. I was angry, he said. I lost my job. My girlfriend left me. I was mad at the world. The female officer shook her head. That's not an excuse to hurt an animal, sir. I'm going to need to see some ID. Tom pulled out his wallet with shaking hands and gave the officer his driver's license. She looked at it and wrote down his information. Thomas Baker, you're being charged with animal cruelty, she said. That's a serious offense. You'll need to come with us to the station. Tom felt sick. He had never been arrested before. What would his parents think? What about his few friends? Wait, Statham said. Everyone looked at him. I want to take Frank to a vet first, to make sure he's not badly hurt. Can one of you come with me as a witness? The other can take this man to the station. The officers agreed. The female officer would go with Statham to the vet, while the male officer would take Tom to the police station. As the male officer put handcuffs on Tom, people in the crowd started taking more pictures. Someone shouted, "Animal abuser." Another person yelled, "Shame on you." Tom had never felt so small and hated, and he knew it would get worse. Jason Statham was famous. This story would be on the internet within minutes. By tomorrow, everyone would know what Tom had done. The officer led Tom to the police car and helped him into the back seat. Through the window, Tom watched as Statham carefully placed Frank in the back seat of a fancy black car, with Rosie jumping in beside them. The female officer got into the passenger seat of Statham's car. As both cars pulled away, Tom saw people on the sidewalk already looking at their phones, sharing videos of what had just happened. At the police station, things moved quickly. Tom was photographed and fingerprinted. He sat in a small room with the officer who had arrested him. Mr. Baker, animal cruelty can mean jail time, the officer explained, or a very big fine. Plus, this incident involves a public figure, so there will be extra attention on your case. Tom put his head in his hands. I made a mistake, he said. I was stupid and cruel. I'm sorry. The officer looked at him for a long moment. Being sorry is a start, but it doesn't fix what you did. After 2 hours at the station, Tom was allowed to call someone to pay his bail. The only person he could think to call was his older brother, Mark. When Mark arrived, he looked angry and disappointed. What were you thinking, Tom? He asked as they walked out of the station. Kicking the dog. And not just any dog, Jason Statham's dog. Are you crazy? Tom had no answer. He just wanted this nightmare to end. But as they reached Mark's car, Tom saw a news van pulling up to the police station. This was just the beginning. By morning, Tom Baker was famous for all the wrong reasons. His face was on news websites. The video of him kicking Frank, and then being confronted by Jason Statham, had millions of views. People were calling Tom the dog kicker on social media. Tom sat in his brother Mark's apartment, staring at the TV. A news reporter stood outside the coffee shop, where everything had happened yesterday. This is where a man named Thomas Baker kicked action star Jason Statham's beloved bulldog Frank, the reporter said. Statham, known for his tough guy roles in movies like The Transporter and Fast and Furious, handled the situation without violence, choosing to call the police instead. The TV showed a picture of Tom's face, taken from his social media account. Turn it off, Tom said to Mark. I can't watch anymore. Mark clicked off the TV. What did the vet say about the dog? He asked. Frank has bruised ribs, but no broken bones, Tom said. The police told me this morning. They also said I'm lucky Statham didn't hit me. Tom's phone rang. It was his old boss from the car shop. "Don't answer that," Mark warned, but Tom picked up anyway. "Hello, Tom, I saw the news," his boss said, sounding angry. "I need you to know, even though I fired you, I never want people to think my shop has anything to do with animal abuse. If anyone asks, I'm going to tell them you were fired weeks ago, not the day before this happened." The call ended before Tom could reply. His phone immediately started ringing again. This time, it was a number he didn't know. Tom answered. "Is this Thomas Baker?" asked a woman's voice. "Yes," Tom said. "This is Lena from London Daily News. Can I get your side of the story about?" Tom hung up. His phone rang again. Another reporter. He turned the phone off. "This is crazy," Tom said to his brother. "It was a mistake. A stupid, terrible mistake. But now it's like my whole life is over." Mark looked at him without much sympathy. "You hurt an innocent animal, Tom. On camera. And not just any animal. A movie star's pet. What did you expect?" Tom had no answer. His court date was set for next week. His lawyer had told him he would probably get a fine, maybe community service, since this was his first offense. But the damage to his life was already done. Later that day, Mark went to Tom's apartment to get him some clean clothes. When he came back, he looked worried. "Someone spray-painted dog abuser on your door," Mark said. "And your landlord called. He wants you out by the end of the month." Tom felt sick. "Where am I supposed to go?" "You can stay here until you figure things out," Mark said. "But you need to get help, Tom. This anger you have, it's destroying your life." That evening, they saw a new video online. It showed Jason Statham leaving the vet's office with Frank and Rosie. A reporter asked him how Frank was doing. "He'll be fine," Statham said. "He's tough, like his dad." He smiled a little, then became serious. "I want to thank everyone for their concern, but I also want to say something about the man who hurt Frank." Tom leaned closer to the screen, his heart racing. "What that man did was wrong," Statham continued. "But I've seen the things people are saying online. The threats, the hate. That needs to stop. Justice will come through the courts, not through more violence or cruelty." Tom couldn't believe what he was hearing. The man whose dog he had hurt was asking people to stop attacking him. Mark looked at Tom. He's a bigger man than most would be in his position. Tom nodded, feeling a strange mix of shame and relief. "Much bigger than me," he admitted. That night, Tom couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about how quickly his life had fallen apart, and how one moment of senseless cruelty had shown the world, and himself, who he really was. Tom's first few days at the animal shelter were hard. The work was not easy. Cleaning cages, washing dirty blankets, and picking up dog poop in the exercise yard. His back hurt from bending and lifting. His hands were red from the cleaning products. But the hardest part was how some of the other workers treated him. They knew who he was. Most were polite but cold. A few wouldn't talk to him at all. One young man named Jake made it clear he didn't think Tom should be there. "Animals can tell when someone doesn't like them," Jake said one day, watching Tom fill water bowls. "They know you're only here because a judge made you come." Tom didn't argue. Jake was right. Tom was only there because he had to be. By the end of his first week, Tom was tired and ready to quit. But then something happened that changed everything. Alina asked Tom to help her with a new dog that had just arrived at the shelter. The dog was a big black mixed breed with sad eyes. He was very thin, and his fur was dirty and matted. "This is Max," Alina said. "The police found him chained up behind an empty house. His owner moved away and just left him there. He's been alone for at least 2 weeks." Max stood with his head down, his tail between his legs. He looked afraid of everything. "We need to clean him up and check him for injuries," Alina said. "Can you help me hold him while I cut off these mats in his fur?" Tom felt nervous. Max was a big dog, and Tom wasn't sure if the dog might bite. But he nodded and slowly approached Max. "Hey boy, Tom said softly. It's okay. No one's going to hurt you anymore. To Tom's surprise, Max didn't growl or try to run away. Instead, the big dog leaned against Tom's legs, as if he was too tired to stand on his own. Tom put his hand on Max's head, and the dog looked up at him with eyes full of pain and hope. Something broke open inside Tom's heart. This dog had been treated far worse than Tom had ever been, yet he was still willing to trust a human. Tom thought about Frank, the dog he had kicked for no reason other than his own anger. What kind of person did that make him? "I've got you, Max," Tom whispered, his voice shaking a little. "You're safe now." For the next hour, Tom held Max while Alina cleaned him up. The big dog stayed calm under Tom's touch. At one point, Max licked Tom's hand, and Tom had to turn away so Alina wouldn't see the tears in his eyes. After Max was clean and fed, Alina showed Tom where the dog would sleep. "He seems to like you," she said, watching as Max followed close to Tom's legs. "Most abandoned dogs don't trust men right away." "Why not?" Tom asked. "In our experience, men are more often the ones who hurt them," Alina said simply. Tom felt those words like a punch to his stomach. He thought about the video of himself kicking Frank that millions of people had seen. He was one of those men. That night, back at his brother's apartment, Tom couldn't stop thinking about Max. For the first time since the incident with Frank, Tom wasn't thinking about his own problems. Instead, he was wondering if Max was scared in the strange shelter, if the big dog was sleeping okay, or if he was having bad dreams about being left alone. The next morning, Tom arrived at the shelter an hour early. Alina was surprised to see him. "I thought I'd take Max for a walk before my shift starts," Tom explained. "If that's okay." Alina smiled, the first real smile she had given him. "That would be great. He needs the exercise, and it will help him trust people again." As Tom walked Max around the park near the shelter, he realized something important. He had spent his whole life feeling sorry for himself, angry at the world for not giving him what he wanted. But Max had suffered real pain and betrayal, yet he was still open to love. "I think I have a lot to learn from you, buddy," Tom said to the big dog. Max looked up at him and wagged his tail, just a little. 3 weeks passed. Tom worked at the shelter every day, even on weekends when he didn't have to be there. Max became his special project. Each morning, Tom took the big dog for a walk. He brushed Max's now clean fur and played with him in the exercise yard. Max was gaining weight and looking healthier. His eyes weren't sad anymore. "You're good with him," Alina said one day as she watched Tom teaching Max to sit. "He's like a different dog now." Tom smiled. "He's teaching me more than I'm teaching him." Even Jake, who had been so cold to Tom at first, was starting to warm up. "Max never took to anyone like he's taken to you," Jake admitted. "Maybe you're not as bad as that video made you look." Tom also went to his anger management classes twice a week. At first, he didn't want to talk in the group, but as time went on, he began to share. He talked about losing his job and his girlfriend, about feeling like the world was against him, and about how kicking Frank had changed his life. "I hurt an innocent animal because I was mad at the world," Tom told the group. "I'm not that person anymore. I don't want to be that person anymore." One day, after Tom had been working at the shelter for about a month, Alina called him into her office. "I have some news," she said. "Good news. A family wants to adopt Max." Tom felt a strange mix of happiness and sadness. He was glad Max would have a real home, but he had grown attached to the big dog. "They're good people," Alina continued. "They have a house with a big yard. The dad works from home, so Max won't be alone all day. Their kids are teenagers, so they're old enough to help take care of him." "That's great," Tom said, trying to sound happy. "When will they take him?" "They're coming on Saturday," Alina said. She looked at Tom closely. "You've done a wonderful job with him, Tom. He's ready for a family because of you." Tom nodded, not trusting himself to speak. That afternoon, Tom took Max for an extra long walk. The big dog trotted beside him, his tail wagging. Tom had never had a dog of his own. Growing up, his parents didn't allow pets. As an adult, he had never thought about getting one. But now, the idea of not seeing Max every day made his chest hurt. "You're going to a good home, buddy," Tom told Max. "A real home, with people who will love you." On Saturday, Tom came to the shelter early. He gave Max a bath and brushed his fur until it shined. He put on the new collar the shelter had for dogs who were being adopted. At noon, Elena came to get Max. "They're here," she said gently. "Do you want to meet them?" Tom nodded and followed Elena to the front of the shelter, leading Max on a leash. A couple stood there with two teenage girls. They all smiled when they saw Max. "He's beautiful," one of the girls said. "He's a very special dog," Elena told them. "Tom here has been working with him since he arrived." The father stepped forward and shook Tom's hand. "Thank you for taking such good care of him. We promise we'll give him a loving home." Tom knelt down and gave Max one last hug. The big dog licked his face, making Tom laugh even as his eyes filled with tears. "Be a good boy," Tom whispered. Then he handed the leash to the father. As the family left with Max, Tom felt both sad and proud. Elena put her hand on his shoulder. "That's the hardest part of working here," she said. "Saying goodbye. But it's also the best part, knowing they're going to a good home." Tom watched through the window as the family helped Max into their car. The big dog looked back at the shelter once, then settled into his new family's car. "I have another dog I'd like you to work with," Elena said after a moment. "A scared little terrier that was used in illegal dog fights. She doesn't trust anyone yet. I think you might be able to help her." Tom wiped his eyes and turned to Elena. "I'd like that," he said. "I'd like that a lot." For the first time since the incident with Frank, Tom felt like he was doing something good with his life, something that mattered. 2 months had passed since Tom's court date. His community service hours were almost finished, but he had asked Elena if he could stay on as a volunteer. She had happily agreed. "You have a gift with the scared ones," she told him. "Dogs that won't respond to anyone else will open up to you." Tom was working with Daisy now, the small terrier who had been used in dogfights. She was missing part of one ear and had scars on her face. For the first week, she would only hide in the corner of her cage when anyone came near. But Tom sat quietly outside her cage for hours each day, just talking to her in a soft voice. Now, after 3 weeks, she would eat from his hand and let him put a gentle hand on her head. Tom's life was changing in other ways too. His brother Mark had helped him find a small apartment near the shelter. It wasn't much, but it was clean and quiet. Tom had even found a part-time job at a grocery store down the street. The manager there didn't care about Tom's past. He only cared that Tom showed up on time and worked hard. The anger management classes were helping. Tom hadn't felt that old, burning rage in weeks. When something upset him now, he would take a deep breath and think about the dogs at the shelter, about how they had suffered far worse than he ever had, yet they still found the courage to trust again. One evening after work, Tom stopped at a small cafe to get coffee. As he waited in line, he heard a familiar voice behind him. "Black coffee, please. No sugar." Tom turned around slowly. Standing there was Jason Statham. For a moment, Tom couldn't breathe. He wanted to run away, but his feet wouldn't move. Statham hadn't noticed him yet. Tom could have slipped away. Instead, he took a deep breath and turned to face the actor. "Mr. Statham," Tom said, his voice shaking a little. "I'm Tom Baker. I'm the one who hurt your dog, Frank. I want to say how sorry I am for what I did." Statham looked at Tom for a long moment. His face was hard to read. People in the cafe had gone quiet, watching them. "How is Frank?" Tom asked nervously when Statham didn't speak. "He's fine," Statham finally said. "Good as new. No lasting harm done." Tom nodded, relieved. "That's good. I'm glad." He paused, then added, What I did was wrong. There's no excuse for it. I've been working at an animal shelter as part of my community service. It's changed me. I understand now what I did." Statham studied Tom's face. "You working with dogs now?" "Yes," Tom said. "Scared ones, mostly. Dogs that have been abused or abandoned." Something in Statham's expression softened slightly. "People can change," he said. "Dogs teach us that every day. They forgive even when they shouldn't." "They do," Tom agreed. "More than people, sometimes." The barista called Statham's name, and he stepped forward to get his coffee. Tom thought that was the end of their conversation, but Statham turned back to him. "I have a friend who runs a dog training program," Statham said, "teaching rescue dogs to be service animals. They're always looking for people who understand dogs, especially the damaged ones." He pulled out his phone, tapped on it, and held it out to Tom. "Put your number in. I'll have him call you." Tom stared at the phone in shock. With trembling fingers, he entered his number. "Thank you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I don't deserve your help." Statham put his phone away and picked up his coffee. "Everyone deserves a second chance," he said. "Dogs know that. It's why they're better than us." He gave Tom a small nod, then walked out of the cafe. People were staring at Tom, some whispering to each other. But for once, Tom didn't feel ashamed or angry. He felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: hope. Outside the cafe window, Tom saw Statham get into a black car. In the back seat were two bulldogs, Frank and Rosie. As the car pulled away, Tom made a promise to himself. He would be the kind of person that dogs believed humans could be: kind, patient, and forgiving. 1 week after meeting Jason Statham at the cafe, Tom got a phone call. The man on the phone introduced himself as David Harris, the friend Statham had mentioned who ran the service dog training program. "Jason told me about you," David said. "He says you have a way with difficult dogs. We could use someone like that." Tom could hardly believe it. "I'd love to learn more about your program," he said. 2 days later, Tom visited the training center. It was a large building with open training rooms inside and grassy fields outside. David was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes. He showed Tom around the center, explaining how they train dogs to help people with different needs. "Some of our dogs help people who can't see," David explained. "Others help people who have trouble walking or need help when they get sick. We even train dogs to sense when someone is about to have a seizure." Tom was amazed. "I had no idea dogs could do all that." "Dogs are incredible animals," David said. "But finding the right dog for each job is the hard part. That's where someone like you could help." David took Tom to a special section of the center where new rescue dogs were kept. These were dogs that might have potential to be service animals, but many were still scared or nervous from their past experiences. "Before we can train them, they need to trust people again," David said. "We need someone who can connect with them, help them feel safe." Tom watched as a handler tried to work with a beautiful German shepherd that kept backing away, too afraid to take treats or toys. "Can I try?" Tom asked. David nodded, and Tom slowly entered the room. He sat on the floor, not looking directly at the dog. He just sat quietly, the way he had learned to do with Daisy. After a few minutes, he took a treat from his pocket and placed it on the floor near him. Then he waited. Slowly, the German shepherd crept closer. Tom didn't move or speak. He just breathed calmly and steadily. Finally, the dog took the treat and backed away to eat it. Tom placed another treat a little closer to himself. The dog came forward again. By the end of an hour, the German shepherd was taking treats from Tom's open hand and allowing Tom to gently touch its head. David watched the whole thing. "That dog hasn't let anyone touch him in the 3 weeks he's been here," he said. "How did you learn to do that?" Tom thought about his answer. "I guess I understand what it's like to be afraid and angry, to not trust anyone. These dogs just need someone to be patient with them." After the visit, David offered Tom a job at the training center. It didn't pay much, but it was a real job doing something important. Tom accepted immediately. At the animal shelter, Elena was sad to see Tom go but happy for his new opportunity. "You found your calling," she told him on his last day. "And it all started because you made a terrible mistake." Tom nodded. "I'm not glad I hurt Frank that day, but I am grateful for where it led me." Before he left, Elena had one last surprise for him. She brought out Daisy, the little terrier Tom had been working with. "We think Daisy is ready for adoption," Elena said, "and we think you should be the one to adopt her." Tom looked at the small dog with her scared face and missing part of an ear. Daisy wagged her tail and looked up at him with complete trust in her eyes. "Are you sure?" Tom asked, his voice cracking with emotion. "I've never had a dog before." "She chose you," Elena said simply. "Some dogs pick their own people. Daisy picked you." That evening, Tom took Daisy home to his small apartment. He had already bought a dog bed, food bowls, and toys. Daisy explored every corner of the place, sniffing everything. Then she jumped up on the couch beside Tom and put her head on his leg. As he stroked her soft fur, Tom thought about how much his life had changed in just a few months. From a man so angry he would hurt an innocent animal, to someone who had found purpose in helping animals heal. "We both got a second chance, didn't we, girl?" Tom whispered to Daisy. She thumped her tail in agreement, already half asleep on his lap. 1 year had passed since the day Tom kicked Frank the bulldog. His life was nothing like it had been before. Tom now worked full-time at the Service Dog Training Center. He had a small office with pictures of dogs on the walls. His job was to work with new rescue dogs, helping them overcome their fear so they could begin their training. Daisy came to work with him every day. The little terrier had become a helper of sorts. Scared dogs often felt safer when another dog showed them it was okay to trust humans. Daisy was good at this job. She would sit calmly beside Tom, showing the new dogs that he was safe. Tom's apartment was now filled with dog toys, and his phone was full of pictures of Daisy and the dogs he worked with. His brother Mark often joked that Tom talked more about dogs than people these days. "You're a different person," Mark told him during a visit. In a good way. Tom knew it was true. The angry man who had kicked a dog for no reason seemed like a stranger to him now. That man had been full of hate and self-pity. Tom still felt ashamed when he thought about what he had done, but he used that shame to fuel his work with damaged and fearful dogs. One sunny morning, Tom arrived at work to find David waiting for him with excitement on his face. "We have a special visitor today," David said. "Jason Statham."